Everybody, welcome to another episode of Stage Diving with Scotty. My guest is Chris Simpson from many works, many bands, from Mineral, Gloria Record, Mountain Time, and Zookeeper. Welcome to my show, Chris.
Thanks for having me, Scotty.
Appreciate it, man. Wow, where to start with you? Well, first of all, you enjoying your vacation? And you're on vacation?
Yeah, for sure. We're having a great time.
How long have you guys been on vacation?
I think flew up here the 3rd, then we'll go back home Saturday, the 14th. So.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, so I would love to share with you a memory real quick of when I was in a band called Solace. We were introduced to, this is back in like 90, maybe, I think it was just before And Serenading came out. And we were just getting into like Sunny Day and stuff because we heard In Circles on the radio for the first time on a college station, and that changed our worlds forever. And then a friend of ours in a band called Stairwell, his name was Neil, he suggested listening to a band called Mineral. And we're like, oh, okay, yeah, let's give it a shot. So then we listened to The Power Failing, and we're blown away. And from there, it just, obviously it just grew from there. I think it was just the style and emo that was kind of really building up around that time was so just beautiful in its own evolution. And I feel like, I don't know if around that time, who was influencing you to create Mineral, but I feel like you guys were pretty much one of the beginning bands of that sort of emo.
For us, we were coming from like not much of a like punk or hardcore background. Our drummer Gabe had lived in the Bay Area and went to Gilman Street, growing up seeing shows. So he was definitely probably the most knowledgeable of that scene of any of us. The rest of us were coming from, just kind of a big guitar rock bands. Like we loved the Smashing Pumpkins, and we really, in the years when Mineral was forming, we were really into Sugar and this band, the Catherine Wheel from England, Swerve Driver. The kind of like, we were getting into a lot of the indie, like Superchunk and Rocket from the Crypt, and starting to see ways that we were starting to really understand the kind of DIY aesthetic, and it felt very comfortable to us, playing, shows in non-traditional venues. And we definitely loved that Sunny Day Real Estate record. I feel like when that came out, it felt like we were starting to discover some bands who were doing similar things to what we were doing. And we, around that time too, just randomly got put on a show in Houston opening for a band from Denver called Christie Front Drive. And we knew nothing about them at the time, but a friend of ours booked the show and said, you guys should come down and play the show. This band is great. And that was just like a mutual love fest. And we really loved each other. And Carrie, their bass player, put out our first 7-inch, the Gloria Parking Lot 7-inch. And we had no idea we just had no idea about anything, I think. And so he seemed like this guy who knew, and they knew all these other bands, and kind of through them and their contacts. Well, they asked us also if we wanted to go out on tour with them, and we thought that was just an amazing idea. You can go on tour.
Wow.
So we went out on tour with them, and that's really kind of that. They were kind of our portal to a lot of this scene that was kind of happening at the time, this kind of very connected, like networked kind of DIY independent music thing going on with all these bands. And
so then you guys hit it off pretty well then, like just kind of, I know there's the meeting the bands for the first time that you're going to be playing with, and then there's actual like a real good casual generosities or whatever you call it, but then actually really friending bands, and you guys just hit it off like that.
Yeah, we just hit it off, and then not long after that 7-inch came out, Jeff Matlow from Crank Records just sort of randomly called me one day and said he had gotten a copy of the 7-inch, which a friend of mine in Denver who ran a like fanzine had sent him because they had gotten to be buddies on the phone. Jeff was doing some advertising in his fanzine, and Jeff just loved it and wanted to put it out. So through that, we discovered like Vitreous Humor and Boys Life and these other bands that he was putting out. And yeah, it was just like it kind of all exploded for us at once. We were like, oh man, this is so cool. There's all these great bands like all over the country, like that know each other and help each other out, you know.
That's cool. You know what? I mean, obviously, for not being in that kind of band around that time, that and seeing more of that kind of now. Well, the times that I was in bands, it would seem like it was almost, I hate to say it, but like kind of almost competitive. Kind of a jealousy kind of a thing too. If your band was more getting more shows than mine or that kind of stuff. So to kind of see it, to hear you say that is kind of heartwarming in a way, because I see more of that nowadays as well. Again, it's like it's coming back. And like I love Spartan Records. I think they are so cool with just the love fest that John has with all these bands, old school, new school, and he's just, you can just tell the love. There just seems like a real I don't know, just a real admiration for the music that he picks for his records. And
yeah, he's so passionate about what he does and the music he releases, and yeah, it's it's easy to feel very quickly like you have just such an ally and confidant in him, you know. Yeah, he loves the idea of like storytelling. Like that's to him what like, you know, music, putting out music is all about, you know.
Yeah.
Or like how you sell music or, you know, interest people in it. It's like telling the story of it, you know.
Yeah. And that's perfect to what I wanted to say in regards to you are so it wasn't just the songs themselves with Mineral, it really was your storytelling. To me, Jeremy Enigk was very storytelling, but more in a traditional sense of poetry, in my opinion, a poetic sort of delivery. And yours was more like reminiscent of old times. You could tell a story like David Bazan and Pedro the Lion. Like I feel like you two are just ridiculous storytellers. And I mean, with that's the biggest compliment from me, is because when you can make a song, like one of my favorite songs from Mineral is well, there's a few, but it's like MD, which was, I think was on a 7-inch, I think, Rubber Legs, and End Serenading. And it, you know, about your you know, about well, for me, my brothers and I, we love you. We all love you, grew up with you. So it meant a lot to me about the MD, about, I think it's your brother, right? About him getting married.
Yeah.
And it was just so heartwarming and such a beautiful song and such a great ode to your brother. That it gives me chills and almost makes me cry every time I listen to it.
It's really one of my favorite Mineral songs as well.
I'm sure it is, because it's personal, super personal.
Sure. I mean, a lot of them are like just something about the music to that. Like I remember recording it. We recorded it at a friend of ours' house, and maybe the first time I recorded something like not in a studio setting, you know.
Oh, it wasn't?
No, it was like, well, it was a buddy of ours who lived in the hills outside of Austin who had, for a brief time, like a major label deal. And then he didn't end up, I don't know if he even ended up putting out a record, but
Oh,
while he had this major label contract, he had like bought all the studio gear and just put it in his house and was trying to, kind of make a record. And we just, we used to go over there and hang out all the time anyways, because it was just a beautiful spot up in the hills. And so we went to record that song there. And I think it was the first time that we really saw that magic of, for me at least, recording in someone's house, like, which is how I prefer to do things now. Like most of the mountain time recording I do is with a buddy of mine, collaborator now, who's just has a studio in his house. And I love places like that where it's like, not like you're leaving the real world to go to some like isolated studio. Like you walk in and like there's the kitchen and there's his
yeah.
wife like coming home from work and making dinner, and then like 10 feet further than that there's a grand piano, and then there's like it's just sort of like organically like worked into the house.
It's
So I really liked that setup where we recorded that song. And I just remember like we stayed up all night like recording that, and everyone else left at some point or fell asleep. And I remember doing the vocals like last thing, and I had to work at a morning shift at a restaurant I was working at the time, and just remember like finishing up the vocals just in time to like pour a cup of coffee and get in my truck and drive to work. Um, yeah, it was a really good time. It was a good feeling.
the life of a musician.
Yeah.
Get it done and go straight back to work.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I love about mountain time too. Like okay, you know, when I started to listen to mountain time, when a project was first kind of coming to be, it was like last year, right? It was 2020.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, your style, it reminded me of like, I don't know if you're a Wes Anderson fan, but to me, the full album of music for looking animals,
Mm-hmm.
I could just see it like in, Wes Anderson's slow motion scenes, at the very end, I could like hear songs like Empty Graves playing or something like that, and just it's perfect setting for it. So when I saw the picture of like Zookeeper or a picture of you and the guys for doing Mountain Time, all I could think of was like a Wes Anderson film, and just I was just wondering of like, I wonder if Chris is a Wes Anderson fan, because it'd be
I
very
love
fitting.
I love those movies. Yeah. I'm maybe a little behind at this point. I might be a film or two behind, but I think Royal Tenenbaums is one of my favorite movies ever. And they're just so beautiful and like unique and human, and
Yeah,
like yeah, there's just so much depth and heart to the characters, and the visual, like the settings and the costuming and the cinematography is just always so impeccable and like perfectly stylized, but also just like not in a way to just look cool, but in a way that like actually makes you feel a certain way.
yeah,
Like they have a feel to them. My favorite music is like that too, I think. Like there's something comforting about familiarity, like as someone builds a body of work, like you see a Wes Anderson film now and it's a Wes Anderson film. And that was probably true like from like movie 2 or 3 or something. Like it was just he has such a specific like style and aesthetic.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. And they're so quirky in their own little ways, and yeah, and he really brings some humanness and some silliness and some deep thought into some of his films. And yeah, his visuals are just so engaging for
Hmm.
so many different reasons.
Yeah.
My brother Jeff is just absolutely obsessed with Wes Anderson, and just his favorite movie of his is actually Rushmore. So
Yeah. Also great. Yeah.
yeah. I don't think you're too far behind, because I think the hotel one, I think, was one of the last ones. I can't remember the name of it.
I saw the hotel one.
Okay.
I never saw his fantastic Mr. Fox. Um,
You gotta watch that.
and there's another that I didn't see. I feel like there's another like not live action one too, right?
Yeah, that was. Oh, the dog. It was a dog one. I forgot what it was called though. Ah, shoot,
Yeah.
like
So I
claymation.
think those might be the only two I haven't seen.
I think your kids would dig them. At least Fantastic Mr. Fox. I think
Yeah.
the other one's a little more, maybe a little more, not edgy, but just a little more. I mean, I don't know. How old are your kids?
So we have all the way from 10 down to like almost 4. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe not the dog one. But yeah, I think Fantastic Mr. Fox might be. I mean, I don't know how you are with what your kids watch, but I think that one would be kind of a fun one for them. It's a little,
yeah,
you
for
know,
sure.
little odd, a little quirky.
Yeah.
But that's what. Anyways, that's what reminded me of a little bit of your some of your shots, some of the music, and I could just picture it in my head, and it brings a smile to my face because that's what you know. Wes Anderson films make me do too. They just make me smile. So you guys, so as far as Mineral, that was what 94.
Yeah, 94 to ultimately we were kind of already decided to break up by the end of 97. But and Serenading didn't come out till the fall of 98. So
Okay, okay, that makes sense. Well, it was a wonderful to see you guys. So we got to see. So okay, so my brothers and I, um, they flew up here in Sacramento, and we went to go see you guys play with Hum.
oh
And
yeah.
and that, Chris, for me, that was such a special moment because of what I've told you of how we felt about you and Mineral, what it just meant to us. And then seeing you guys finally play live and then play with Hum, who was a huge influence for us as well. What a world of just emotion when we saw you guys and got to see Hum. And man, you guys just sounded just as good as I was hoping you would.
Oh good.
I don't mean that like you guys would have sucked, but I mean just like but sometimes you kind of build the expectation, you get nervous, and then when someone blows you away, it's like, oh man, why in the world was I even like nervous about this? I hope that makes sense. I mean, do you ever get that way with certain bands that you've seen live?
Yeah, for sure. It's always it, it it's always a pleasant surprise when a band is good live, you know? Like not all bands are good live. Uh some bands are, sound better on record. I think yeah, I think it was a relief for us too, as we got back together because it's not something we ever thought about back in the original run of the band, but definitely when we got back together in 2014, we really wanted it to be good, we wanted it to not be disappointing to people who would come to see it, like in the sense of like, yeah, I was really looking forward to seeing Mineral, but it wasn't all I hoped it would be, like that would suck. So we really wanted it to be good, and we wanted. I think we took great care to like not reinterpret the material,
Yeah.
to just like try and play it as true to its original form as possible,
And as far as that tour went, was who called who first? Was it you guys talking to Hum or Hum talk to you, or how'd that work?
I think they asked us to do it. We've known, the bass player of Hum, Jeff Dempsey, lived in Austin for quite a while, in the early to mid 2000s, and we got to be close and like hung out all the time. He's best friends with a good friend of ours. Um, so we used to get together with Jeff all the time and like drink beer and watch basketball and whatnot. I remember watching the World Series, or the lead up to the World Series, when the Cubs almost got there, but the guy
Oh,
in the stands like tried to catch the ball and
yeah.
I remember watching that on my front porch with Jeff and some friends. So we were kind of buddies from that era, and then he's since moved back to Champaign. I think back when he was here, had done a few kind of one-off reunion shows, and I think they did Furnace Fest one year. Um, but they hadn't done any like full-on tours. And so they reached out and were like, we want to do like a West Coast tour and would love to do kind of co-headlining thing. Like we have the same booking agent, so it just kind of made sense. And we were we had kind of just done the year before, like the whole country and like world really, like we had done this whole big tour. So we were a little hesitant to like, oh, do we need to go back out this soon? But I think if it hadn't been Hum, we might have been like, yeah, we don't need to go out again this soon. But the idea of doing a week's worth of shows with Hum like sounded just too good to us to pass up.
Yeah, I would hope so. I mean, my goodness. And boy, they put on a show as well, man. That was really sick. I remember I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm so bad with certain memories of names. But your bass player, I think, at one point goes, he goes, "Get ready for Hum. They're so effing loud."
Yes, they are. It's true. And we're not quiet. So when we're telling you that, it's saying something.
Yeah, because I remember, I'm glad that I'm so old now, and I remember just putting the plugs in my ears and going, I'm glad I'm doing this now. It's just a little too late, but at least I'm doing it now.
Yeah, for sure.
So then after 98 with Aaron Serenading, you guys, sorry, you and Jeremy formed the Gloria Record.
Mm-hmm.
And was that partly what, I mean, I apologize. I mean, I could, edit this out or I don't know how you feel about it, but is that partly why you guys broke up? Was that so that you wanted to kind of venture off and do something else?
Kind of. I think Jeremy and I were both just feeling like a little fenced in with Mineral. Like we were
like the sound?
I guess partially that, and partially I think just a little burnt out. We toured so much in such a short period of time with Mineral. And he was recently married, and I was just starting to date the woman I'm now married to. And we just kind of wanted to, I think, we liked the idea of starting over and starting a new band because it meant we could hang out at home more,
Yeah.
Get to know these ladies. But I think, so I think it was partially that and partially just like, I think there was not like blatant creative differences going on, but like we were like a lot of bands struggle with their second record, because the first record is material the first record, you're just excited to make a record and you don't really think too much about anything, just go do it. And we definitely struggled in the writing period for And Serenading, and wow. I was really struggling to come up with lyrics and vocals, and we finished the record and it was just music for like 8 or 9 months, and
really
somewhere during that time is when we broke up, but I was determined to write vocals and lyrics to the record, so I took a couple of road trips where I would only bring with me a cassette of the instrumental songs from And Serenading, and that's all I could listen to in my car to come up with ideas. Every once in a while I would break down and like stop at the Kmart and buy some cassettes of other things to listen to, but
worn out.
I was like, can't listen to this anymore. But I did come home from, I remember specifically coming home from one of those little road trips, and I think I was in Memphis, and I was driving home from Memphis, which is maybe 16 hours or so back to Austin.
Wow.
Maybe 14. But during that drive, the ideas for and serenading vocals started coming to me, and I was so excited about them, and I was so worried that like I wasn't going to get home and be able to record them before forgetting them. Like I had
Yeah.
kind of all the layers of the vocals on the end and everything like in my head, and so I was like speeding home to Texas, and uh, put the cassette in the 4-track and just laid down some like rough vocal ideas to it, to just so I'd have them down there, you know. And that was kind of the beginning of it all coming together. And then I wrote all the lyrics and vocals for it. But yeah, it's interesting because we were already essentially decided to break up at the time. So it was really just finishing the record to kind of honor the music, you know, like we loved the music that we had come up with for the record, and
Oh yeah.
didn't want to leave it hanging, you know, unfinished.
Mineral's new album, no Chris.
Yeah, that would have been sad.
Well, I figured. I mean, you were probably hauling butt, hence the 16 hours to 14 hours. I mean.
Yeah. I think I did it in 9.
Oh, really?
No, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
And you didn't get pulled over. Good job. No, wow, I didn't realize that. That's cool. I mean, you're talking about a road trip to do that. I'm thinking like, oh, you're just going out to the store for 20 minutes and getting like, you don't needed to clear your head.
No, I just got in my car and started driving. I think on that trip I went over to New Orleans, and it was like Jazz Fest time.
Oh wow.
So
Okay.
it was like craziness in New Orleans, which was kind of fun to be around. And then I went up through Mississippi and stayed in Jackson for a bit, and then Memphis, and then home. So like little road trips, not like driving over the whole country, but just like, you know, driving a few states over and up.
Wow, nothing like clearing your head with a big road trip like that. Wow.
Yeah.
That's got to be cleansing some sort for the creativity. That's so
Yeah.
cool. Wow, man. That's really cool. Now when you did Power of Family, did it flow pretty quickly then?
Yeah, you know, a lot of the, for sure, a lot of those songs were like, probably all of them almost were like pretty fully written or realized before we went to the studio to record them. So I had all the parts, you know, it's just a matter of recording them.
So then when you guys got back together for, what was it? It was back in 2018 and 2019, you guys did Aurora and One Day When We Were Young.
Mm-hmm.
What brought that on? What brought the sort of doing a new song or two?
Yeah, so we had gotten this idea to do like some sort of commemorative 25 years collector's item kind of thing of some sort. And at first it started as this like big box idea that would have like all the records, and we would repress all the 7 inches and like try and just make it this really cool thing. And as we were starting to like gather material for that and price it out, we were like, these are going to be just like exorbitantly expensive items, and we kind of wanted to make something like, you know, affordable that like people could get, you know.
Yeah.
Plus we had just remastered and reissued the records like 5 years before that on that first reunion tour, so it felt like a little redundant to like put the records in it again, like.
Yeah.
So this box idea like kept getting smaller and smaller, like, well, maybe we'll just do like a small 7-inch size box, we'll repress the 7 inches. And then as we were sort of toying with this idea, at some point we were like, it'd be cool to have like some kind of like book element to it, with like interviews with people that, you know, like peers from back in the day, and you know, some kind of extensive story of Mineral kind of thing. And then at some point we were like, oh really, we're down to just like, it's just a book, you know.
Yeah.
And I think we hadn't seen the book yet, you know, like how it had come out. Like we had Misha Perlman, the writer, had come to hang out with us for a weekend, in Austin, and we just like talked all weekend and hung out, for him to, you know, get the story to write the book. And then he interviewed all these different people who are in the book now. And at the time, he didn't know if it was going to be like just pulling quotes from these different interviews with people to put in the body of the story or the book, or what. But as he started transcribing the interviews, he became convinced that, you know, they should stand on their own, and it should be like, just, you should get to read the whole interviews with people. And so we were, I don't know, like by this point we were like, I don't know, like it's a cool idea, but we, like I said, we hadn't seen it yet, you know. So it was just an idea, and I think we were nervous that it wouldn't seem like enough content for people to be interested in. I don't know. So we were like, what if we write a couple of new songs and like put a, you know, a record in there, you know, like make a new single to go with it. So that's really where the idea came from. And then it was a long process of actually attempting to write new Mineral songs, which felt like, you know, it wasn't an easy thing to do, like to get back in that headspace, or like, we wanted to write something that, you know, made sense in the body of work that originally existed, that didn't feel like left field outliers, you know. But also, you know, it obviously had to have us now in it, you know. So we're just trying to strike that balance and find something that worked in the way that we wanted it to. And it took a while, but yeah, we were really proud of those songs, you know.
Yeah, it was fantastic to see new Mineral and then listen to it and go, you know, I've texted some of my old bandmates, did you hear it? Did you hear it? Yeah, I love it. It's great, you know. Yeah. It just sounds like a modern Mineral.
Yeah.
Even your vocals, you sound even more mature in your vocals with those two songs. Going from older to, or the older sound to the newer sound. So it was really cool to see a little bit of difference in your vocals as well. So
yeah, I guess that makes sense, you know, 25 years later.
Yeah.
Someone might be a little more mature.
Your playing and your songwriting, it's so much fun to, I didn't realize how good at picking that you are.
Yeah.
And to see you do these like in your house, in your backyard, acoustic versions of Mineral and Gloria Record and Mountain Time and Zookeeper, just like, it's so cool and refreshing and organic. And I forget the name of the song, but it's one where you had it set up and your kids are playing in the background and playing in the backyard. That is so freaking, it's so great. I love that. I love it. I don't know what you're looking at. There's a few times you kind of look at someone walking in or something, but I love that. It was just so like natural, and just, I don't know, there's something beautiful about that. To see you picking some of these songs, God bless it. What was the song? Was it Slower? I think it might have been Slower, where you were like picking it. And I was like, because I didn't recognize it at first. And then when you start singing, I'm like, oh, that's a new take. And I really enjoyed it. It was really great, man. So it's cool. I love those. I hope you do more.
Yeah. I enjoyed doing those for sure. It was fun. Yeah.
Was that your idea?
Well, no. Nothing self-promotion wise is usually my idea. But no, John Spartan Records always, you know, he has a lot of ideas. He's like, you know, it would be cool if you did something like this, or maybe would you want to try something like this? He's always throwing out ideas of like things you can do to like, you know, kind of generate more content or interest around releases. And I think with the Mountain Time record, I was wanting to welcome Mineral and Gloria Record fans like to that music.
Yes.
And I know that music is pretty different, you know, in a lot of ways, and it's not going to be for everyone who likes those other bands. It felt like a really kind of organic way to like to make those videos of like me doing like acoustic covers of Mineral and Gloria Record songs and put them on the Mountain Time socials, like felt like a kind of organic way to like, you know, bring some more Mineral and Gloria Record people to the places where we were, you know,
Yeah.
doing Mountain Time things, you know.
Yeah, it's like a slow introduction to kind of,
Yeah.
kind of ease them into that. Because I mean, it was the same thing with me when I first heard Zookeeper, and I was like, this is not what I thought it was going to be. Because being used to Mineral and then being introduced to Zookeeper, it was a little different. Like, I mean, again, like it was the same way for me when listening to Sunny Day Real Estate. And then all of a sudden, my friend goes, "Oh, you should hear Jeremy Enigk's soul album." Oh, okay. And you listen to, the first song, and you're going, "What? Oh, wait, okay. There's a big band." But
Yeah.
I was also like a a music snob. So if it's not one way, I'm like, "Oh, screw it." I don't want to listen to it.
Yeah.
And but at the same time, I was still open to it because I love Jeremy Enigk. I love his writing. I love his singing. And I think that's in a similar way where I listened to Zookeeper and I was like, no, I kind of like this. And then but it was like but like any new thing, when you're not used to a certain thing, it takes time. And with you and Zookeeper and then going to Mountain Time, it all kind of seemed like it was like a progression. And I think Mountain Time is a huge compliment to where you're at now and to your musical journey. I think this is a great spot where you're at because, again, from Music for Looking Animals, I think I apologize so much, but when I started this thing, I did like a best of 2000 kind of a stuff, but I only do 7 albums because 7's my favorite number. And
Okay.
I totally overlooked this album because it would have been on there.
Oh,
And I
okay.
just
No
totally,
worries.
but the problem is I listen to so much freaking music.
Yeah.
So I forget some beautiful things such as that album. And that is such a great album. And speaking of that, what brought on these lost years of for Mountain Time and Zookeeper, and what's that all about?
Yeah. Ultimately, it was just like I wanted to get those Zookeeper records out on vinyl. The first two that the EP and the full length that had never been on vinyl. And since starting to work with John, I've been like, "Do you think you'd ever be into doing that?" And he's like, "Yeah, like probably have to wait a little while till like the schedule clears, but like, I mean, it's a I feel like it's a little bit of a daunting sale because it's not something new. Like these records came out in 2005 and 2006, 2007, somewhere in there. Nobody knew, for the most part. Like they were only manufactured on CD. They were never streaming. And most of the CDs are in my house, still. So, so it's like they were released, but it was also a weird time, like pre-social media and like after labels had kind of died, and it was just it felt like a lost time in music,
Yeah.
to be a small independent artist like peddling your wares. So I've always felt like, God, I would love those records to get like a little bit bigger release and support of some sort. Ultimately, I selfishly just kind of want them on vinyl because I have a spot on my shelf for them, and I think they should be there. So I was like, how do I convince someone to put these out on vinyl? And then I, came up with the idea of like, it'd be cool to combine the EP and the LP and maybe even put some bonus material on there to make it like a double record, but like, something big that like, and something that has something, something new on it. But and we painstakingly like went back to the original reels and like got everything remastered, and like it sounds much better. So I really wanted to just get it out there. And in doing so, I sort of realized that, I was obsessed at the time with documenting everything. Just like having photographers come to the studio or the house, was taking a lot of videos with like a little handheld video camera. I was kind of using that to record new songs as I would write them. Like I'd get up in the morning and just like turn the video camera on and here's a new song I wrote.
Yeah.
And like just filming and taking pictures a lot and documenting, a lot of what was happening at the time. And so just realizing like the wealth of material we had documented, like it felt like, yeah, we should do something with this. So Seth, the bass player from Zookeeper, wrote these beautiful long liner notes about kind of the story of that time with that band, kind of like 2004 to 2008 or whatever. And it just struck me as something that would be cool as like a narration to like a little documentaries, and we had just thousands of pictures too. So it was like, yeah, why don't we just like make a little, DIY Ken Burns style documentary about, using just these pictures. And yeah, it
There's your
like
booklet.
yeah, like a lot of great ideas. You come up with them and you're like, yeah, that sounds like a really cool idea. And then you realize like, I have absolutely no idea how to do that,
Yeah.
like I don't even know the first thing about that. So it was finding, and John is great with that. Like he helps out. He's like, oh, I got this guy that's just video editing, and we can do this and do that, and like just like helping put it all together. And it's been really cool. Like I'm really excited for, like, I know that we kind of split it into like 6 parts. But I'm really
The little
excited.
clips, the little
Yeah.
documentary clips. Yeah, those
Mhm.
are really cool.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. So another one's coming out tomorrow, part 3, and then we have 4, 5, and 6 that are still being edited. But what
Nice.
I'm really excited about is when we get through all these, we'll like make one edit without the like breaks, and it'll just be like one whole narrative, but it'll be like 20, 25 minutes long or something. And I think it's really cool to see the story. And for me, it's cool to get to honor the people that were so involved in helping me make the music at that time, because I've really had just these amazing, passionate people like involved in the band and sort of surrounding it at the time, that it's fun for them to kind of get to tell their story about it. That's why it's kind of why I love the Mineral book, having these freestanding interviews with other people, because it's other people getting to tell you like their experience of Mineral, like what Mineral meant to them, as opposed to like us just taking parts of their words and putting them into our own story.
Yeah.
And I like that the Zookeeper little documentaries for the same reason, like that it's Seth, who's just was such a wonderful friend and such a huge part of helping make all that music happen at that time, and to have someone else get to tell the story from their point of view of like being a part of it is really cool.
Yeah. What a way to capture that moment in time, and then share it for everybody else that's getting to see your heart and their heart. And yeah, no, that's really cool, man. And that's exciting. I didn't realize it was a 6-parter. I remember seeing part 2 and going, cool, I wonder how many there are going to be of this, because the album comes out, or the vinyl comes out on the 27th or something like that.
Yeah, the whole record will be out the 27th. Vinyl delays are the real deal right now, so that probably won't be until like November. But
Yeah, I still haven't gotten my new Unwed Sailor.
right, exactly. Yeah.
Come on.
I saw some thing from Polyvinyl Records that they shared on their Instagram today that had some meme that said something about vinyl wait times are only getting longer. Yeah. It's industry wide, like.
Sucks so bad.
Yeah.
Do you have an eclectic record collection such as Jonathan Ford's? Have you seen that guy's record collection?
I haven't seen it. I've come to realize that I thought I had a record collection. I do. But I know a lot of people who, like, when I look at their record collections and see like how often they buy records, I'm like, yeah, I'm not a record collector the way real record collectors are. I also don't, I don't have this like
Addictive personality.
well, I do clearly, but
Oh, you do?
I don't have the there was a period of time where I bought records a lot when I was kind of building this collection. But to me, it's like I buy something if I really love it and feel like I will definitely listen to it.
Yeah.
But when I was building my collection, I was buying stuff more out of exploring music. It was just like, I'm gonna buy this, and I'm gonna buy this, and I'm gonna buy this, and I'm gonna check it out. Now I buy music that I kind of already know that I like. Yeah,
those are the keepers, right? Those are the keepers, like the ones you go like.
Yeah.
I'd go back and grab, Return of the Frog Queen on vinyl, or I'd go grab the Pink Album, or something like that. And Simon and Garfunkel, just stuff that's timeless, and I could play around my kids.
Totally, yeah. I have a lot of that, yeah. So
it's funny because I also have a friend from Dave from Names Without Numbers, and when I talked to him, he had his collection was CDs, and I thought my brother had CDs. He looked like he had an entire room, wall to ceiling, of just CDs, and I'm just going, okay. And then what's so funny was, I think it was a couple months later, he goes, okay, I'm getting rid of some CDs. They just sit there, right? I mean, for the most part, it's unfortunate, but I mean, we kind of evolved too with the music industry is evolving. How you collect and how you listen is all different now too.
Yeah,
it takes some adjusting, but I mean, vinyl, and it's so funny to see that vinyl's coming back and super popular. So I'm wondering if that's going to kind of build to, are we going to do CDs again? Or, I mean, how's this cycle going to go?
Yeah, because cassettes are back too, in a way.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Certainly across the kind of like independent labels and DIY landscape, which is cool. Like, I always loved cassettes. Like, to me, it's like all tape is good tape. Like, so like, when you make music, in the best, most sort of high fidelity way, you're doing it, on big reels of tape, and so to me, to get to like take, and like my wife's late father left her this cool little reel-to-reel machine that's like, they used to actually sell records in the 70s, like on little reels. It's not like the big reel you made it on at the studio, but it's like, it's like you open this box and there's like this little reel of tape that's maybe like 5 inches or something, and you put it on there and you listen to it, and it sounds phenomenal because it's like actual tape. You're listening to it off of the tape, and I always felt like cassettes kind of have that, they're smaller, and the mechanism is not as high fidelity, but like it's tape,
Yeah.
Something about tape always feels good to me.
Yeah. And it's so funny that I saw a meme not too long ago, which is funny. It said, it showed a tape and it showed a pencil. It said, if you know what this means, then we're the same age.
Yeah.
Because you always have to.
Yeah, they would get caught in the heads and like get all crinkled and hanging out, and you'd have to, and then you get it all the way back in, and you'd realize that it was flipped
over
in the middle. You have to pull it back out and find a place to straighten it and do it all over again.
Such a pain.
Yeah.
But that was fun though, because then you'd always hear the part where you screwed up. So the song is going some.
Yep.
That was always kind of fun. But even making mixtapes was so much fun doing.
Oh yeah, so much fun.
Even like I used to, when I was in high school, I remember just hearing a song on the radio and just pressing play and record, and have that be on there. Have the DJ
Yeah.
talking, and
That's how I got a lot of my music early on, you know, for sure. Like before, when I was a kid, before I had my own money to like go buy records or tapes, you know, like and just like have some blank tapes around. And yeah, like when good stuff came on, like just hit record, you know.
Yeah. I remember the numerous times I had Smells Like Teen Spirit recorded on one tape because I didn't want to have to rewind, so I just let it play over and over again.
I've done that with some songs over the years. I love that trick. Yeah, like I remember when OK Computer came out, we were so enamored with, I mean, the whole record, but like the song Let Down was just like, I just could not hear enough of that song. And our keyboard player, Ben, in the Gloria Record made me this cassette that was like Let Down ad nauseum on both sides. It would flip on its own and it would just play Let Down like 18 times per side or something.
That's the best, dude. That's
Yeah.
old school for you. I love that. What was your speaking of, what was like one of your first like couple albums that you bought yourself? Not ones that were provided for you, but ones that you had your own money and you bought them.
Sure. I bought Thriller by Michael Jackson, I think was my first one.
There you go.
And that was my first big concert too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the when it came through, I grew up in Denver. When it came through on the Jackson's Victory Tour or something, like it was like after he had made Thriller, but the Jacksons also had some new record that year or something, and so he did like it was like Michael Jackson and the Jacksons.
Wow.
So it was mainly a Michael Jackson concert, you know, but he had to let the fam come out and do some Jackson's numbers too. But yeah, I remember it was at Mile High Stadium, like where the Denver Broncos play. It's probably got a different name now, but and the tickets were just like so expensive, and I was just so sad I couldn't go. And my brother and I both wanted to go, and my parents were like, yeah, I just don't think we can afford, you know, those tickets. That's crazy. And so we would often go out. I think it was a Sunday night or something. We would often like go to church with my parents and then go out to eat somewhere. And while we were out eating after church, my parents just like surprised us with like tickets to the show that night.
Wow.
And said, "We're going."
Wow.
So it was awesome. It was really cool.
That's really cool.
Larger than life, like just being that young of a kid and being like we were on the floor, like the field basically, like of this stadium, like football stadium, like watching this huge show. Like that was crazy.
So then what was the last show you went to of recent?
Like pre-pandemic.
Yeah, point.
Mm-hmm. I haven't really been to any since, but man, I went and saw Big Thief.
Big Thief. Okay.
At this place, Stubbs in Austin, who I just love, Big Thief, and it was my first time seeing him live, and it was so wonderful. I've gotten to where like, yeah, I used to drink and do a lot of drugs and like just go out, you know, and I probably like it's been almost 5 years, I guess, that I've been sober, and so now I like to go to shows by myself, you know. Like I don't want to go with friends. I don't want to have to like talk to people. It's not a social event for me, you know. I only go to shows if I really want to like see the show. And so I just like, you know, it was this big outdoor amphitheater like Stubbs. I mean, it's a small outdoor amphitheater, but like holds maybe like 1,100 people or something. And I just like, you know, went down there, rode my bike down there, like just made my way up to the right up front and was just like, and just like took it in and then walked back out, got on my bike and rode home, you know, like that's my kind of show experience now.
That's awesome. That's so great. Would you just like get there and just stand in the back so you can like watch everything, or?
No, I went up close for.
Oh, you did?
For
okay.
them. Like, yeah.
Wow, man. Now, what was, besides that being your Michael Jackson being your first show, what was one of the most impactful experiences aside from that, like the in between, like when you were younger and you were excited about certain rock bands or whatever, who did you go see that kind of really impacted you?
So we used to go see, we were fortunate to live close to them, but this band Bedhead, that's based out of Dallas, um, that was around in the early Mineral days, or kind of the same time period as Mineral. They used to play Austin all the time, and we used to get to go. And they were just so incredible. I feel like they're probably like the most unknown influence on Mineral. Like, just they had 3 guitar players, and just like the just beautiful like interplay of the guitars, and just like these really slow, long, like dynamic builds that they were just so beautiful. So Bedhead was some of my favorite shows, or Bedhead shows. And then we also, being in Texas, the Flaming Lips, before they got
Oh,
more
really?
popular, used to come through and play Texas all the time. Even when they were like on a major label and still not really selling records. And we're still like driving themselves around in a van and loading their own gear. Like, we saw some really phenomenal Flaming Lip shows.
I have to admit, I have never, because of my mentality back in the day where I would just kind of shun bands, because again, I was a music snob. I heard Flaming Lips or one song off the radio. I was like, blah, blah, blah. And I was like that with a lot of bands. I was like that with Yellow Card. I was like that with Jane's Addiction, a lot of that stuff, because it was on the radio. So it was played at nauseum.
Yeah.
So, and same with Radiohead, it was the same way. And then one day on a trip, my brother and I were in the car, and he was playing Radiohead, but I didn't hear any of these songs. And I was like, who is this? Is this Radiohead? He goes, yeah. I'm like, why aren't these songs played on the radio or whatever? And so then I became a Radiohead fan, and then I became a Tool fan, and I became a Yellow Card fan when I gave things a chance and I stopped being a douchebag about everything.
Yeah.
And so I'm only just recently started getting the Jane's Addiction. And now you said Flaming Lips. I haven't given them a chance, so I think I will go back and I'll give them a chance. Because Jonathan Ford told me to go give Def Leppard a chance. So
man, I loved Def Leppard when I was growing up, for sure.
See, I didn't never give them a chance.
Pyromania.
Hysteria.
Yeah. So. I like pre-Hysteria, like they were huge then. They're like the biggest band in the world, but prior to that, like the couple of records before that are so good.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like Pyromania was the one before Hysteria, I think, and before that was High and Dry, maybe. I don't remember the names, but they had some great records early on.
Well, then I'll go back and listen to those now.
Yeah.
I just listened to Straight Hysteria and I was like, oh, this is pretty awesome, actually.
It is. I mean, it's great. It's like, when they were making that record, the guitar player they were so like anal about how they were recording everything and uptight, that they were like, just wanted everything to be so perfect that like the guitar player at one point was like frustrated with the time it took to strum through a chord and how that meant that the chord didn't like hit all at once.
Yeah.
So he went back on individual tracks and like played each string on its own track of a chord so that he could hit them all at the exact same instant.
That's why it sounds so freaking perfect. Holy crap. That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. Holy cow. Wow. Because that's one thing I said to one of the guys I talked to recently, which is that the guitar sounded so clean and so precise that makes total sense. Wow, that's so interesting. My goodness. Yeah. I'll end it, but man, I can't thank you enough. I wish I could talk to you longer. Thank you so much for your time, Chris. I really do appreciate it. This was such a the fact that I even asked you and you responded, it was just, I was floored at that. Even if we never did end up doing it, it was still like, Chris responded to me. I'm so cheesy. I'm so sorry. But yeah, man, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for sharing some of your stories. And your music is just as awesome as it was when it first started, man. I love it so much. And I can't wait to hear the more of the stuff on the 27th, man. So
yeah, that, and there's more coming, like the like this, the Zookeeper thing, the two record thing. We recorded just so much stuff back then, and in putting this record together, me and Seth and Alex, the two kind of main other, like two of the main other dudes in the band back then,
Mhm.
have started going through like all these old reels of tape, and we got them digitized, and so now we have another record that we're just starting to mix. So hopefully there'll be another full length soon that is all like songs that we started back then that weren't completed, that we've now completed. So it's like half of the tracks on them are like from the original sessions back then, and half of them are stuff we've done this year. And that stuff I'm super
Wow.
excited for people to hear, because I think that that's kind of going to be the bridge from back then to back now, you know.
Yeah, wow, that's a really interesting take on songwriting, because the mentality of before and the mentality you are now, what the difference would be in, like, okay, so now, well, did you know what you wanted to do? Sorry, I said I was going to end it.
Oh, we can talk about it.
Okay, so when you created those songs, were they incomplete, or just ideas, or were they just kind of half-assed,
No, they just never got released, you know. Like
was that all it was?
we recorded so much stuff back then, and really only, you know, 15 songs, like an EP and a LP, like were released. And that's, you know, just because, like, I don't know why, you know. We just had so much stuff. I think it was kind of overwhelming, and then, you know, we had this kind of band going for a while, and then people started kind of moving away, and, you know, I got married and started having kids, and the Zookeeper record that came after that, one called Pink Chalk, was really felt more like almost like a solo record, like and it was mostly stuff I was writing at that time. But then Mountain Time, 7 of those 8 songs were written in the Zookeeper days. And then just recorded now, you know. But we realized we have so many like really interesting, cool, kind of strong live takes of stuff on these reels, and in order to complete them, you know, we would go back, and because all this stuff was mostly live in a room, we'd have to, like, you know, recut the acoustic guitar because it would have a bunch of drums in it, and recut the pianos would have drums in them, and redo the vocals because they would obviously have a lot of other sounds in them. And so that's how we finished the EP and the full length back then. And so we're doing that same thing with a lot of the rest of this stuff. We're just doing it now, you know, like 15 years later. So we're going back and recutting the instruments that like have drums in them that from the live room, and redoing the vocals. But to be doing that now, 15 years later, is cool, because it's like maybe we're doing it a little differently than we would have back then if we had finished it then, you know. But ultimately the songs were complete. They just weren't, like, we never completed the process of, like, you know,
like final
readying them to be mixed and released, you know.
Gotcha. Oh, cool. That's
so
so
there's
exciting.
more of that stuff coming, and I'm really excited about that stuff. I think it's going to be really cool.
Or if you do a second release, do the documentary like a scanning code or something to go with that release, so that way we can see the whole documentary thing of the
Yeah, well, I think we'll release the whole documentary like as one piece, like once we get through all the parts and once the record's out. Yeah. Okay. So I think that'll be out sooner, you know.
Oh, okay. So you probably won't wait.
You'll be able to see that. Yeah. But this next record will probably be you know, next year.
Oh, cool.
But it's done. It's done now. We're just starting to mix it. I mean, all the recording is done.
Okay.
So hopefully early next year, spring maybe.
And one more question. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Do you plan on, I mean, depending on how things go, do you plan on doing some touring, little shows here and there? Or I know it's harder with kids, but
I'm definitely love the idea of like doing some shows here and there, you know. Actual touring, you know, is like, it has to make sense financially. Like
Yeah.
Mineral can tour, you know, because there's like enough of a following and interest that we can, you know, make enough money to make it make sense, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I could tour with Mountain Time. But we'll see how things
It's a
go.
damn
You know?
shame.
We'll see how things go. I want to, and I love this material, and I love the people that I get to play it with. So yeah, I'd love to tour eventually, and certainly some shows here and there, you know, like, which, you know, previously we've done around Austin, but it'd be great to do some shows elsewhere, if not like full on touring, you know, even just like go do some shows in the Northeast or go do some shows in California, like,
Yeah,
you know, like little runs.
that'd be cool, man. That'd be
Yeah.
really cool. Yeah, well,
It'll happen,
I'll
I
definitely
think,
be paying
for sure.
attention. What?
It'll happen, I think, for sure. Yeah.
All right, Chris. Thank you again for your time, man. I'm so grateful and appreciative of your time. So, I hope you get some sleep.
All right.
All right, man.
Appreciate it, Scotty.
All right, man. Have a good night.
Take care.